All right, welcome everybody to the wasmCloud community meeting, Wednesday, April 20th. I am Alt Liam, Brooks Townsend, and I'll be running the meeting today. But first, we have kind of a new community member in here. Shiyu, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Shi. I'm actually from Huawei Technologies, and one of my friends is investigating the wasm thing, and I find it very interesting. And I heard this wasmCloud community from him, and he recommended me attending this meeting on behalf of him today. Yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing an introduction, and glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So to start, we normally go with some kind of demo to begin our community meetings. And I don't have a demo for you today, but I have something that was important that I wanted to talk about because it was kind of a milestone release, I guess. So just this past week or earlier this week, we released WASH 0.10. And so this mostly what I want to call out here is that there's a breaking change in the way that we acknowledge control interface commands. So, for example, what we will do is thanks to a great PR from Matt Wilkinson. Now, when you start an actor or start a capability provider, you can actually wait for those resources to fully start. You wait for the actor started or the provider started event coming out of the host. You can always add the skip wait flag or the skip wait flag in order to skip that act. But this is really nice for when you're writing scripts and you want to make sure that each resource starts before you move on to the next thing. So just keep an eye out for that. But in general, we've got some new features, some fixes, and I really just wanted to call out Matt Wilkinson, Blake Oriver, Evan, who's on the call now, and Jordan for some awesome contributions to this release. It's like 90% of the new things in this came from community members like you, and we really appreciate that. So please go out and give it a try. And that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about with WASH. Now, next, just for a general for the community call out section, this is where we normally pull in a couple of good first issues, things that people can get started working on for wasmCloud. I have two today. One is with WASH. There's this notion of context in WASH where when you start a host, WASH is able to automatically infer the connection parameters, any authentication that you use to authenticate to NATs. So when you start a host on your local machine, by default, WASH is going to automatically connect to that host lattice. And this is really nice with developing locally because especially when you're using authenticated NATs connections, you don't have to specify a ton of different authentication parameters. But in the case where we fail to deserialize one of these JSON contexts, at the moment, we kind of just we fail gracefully, right? We're not going to crash the whole program because you don't need to use context in order to use WASH. So this is why we avoided putting like a warn log saying that we couldn't deserialize it because you don't need to use context. But in general, it'd be great to debug here for debugging here to say if you're not using a context, just to make sure that you don't have a malformed context. Then the second issue for our good first issues list is a bug in the host runtime. And Kevin actually filed this a little bit earlier. Right now, when we're scheduling duplicate capability providers, you can only run one essentially combination of public key and link name for a capability provider on a host at a time. And this is intentional, and this is still being enforced. The host doesn't allow you to run multiple. But we're kind of we could handle this a little bit better. We should be able to, in the provider auction section, not allow you to auction a capability provider to a host that already has one running. And additionally, when we try to start an already running provider, we should say that the provider failed to start, but right now we essentially attempt to start that provider anyways, which will crash. So we can handle this a little bit more gracefully. We kind of already have a to-do in the code for tackling this, which is why I think it's a great first issue. There's pointers. And so if anybody's interested in taking on either of these, just drop a comment on the issue. And if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them now, or there's always the help channels in wasmCloud. So does anybody have any questions for the community call out or for the WASH release? Awesome. Well, then now what we can go ahead and do is move on to I know that's our community call out for the wasmCloud community, but for the general broader WASM community and for the folks that are here, I have one thing that I wanted to mention, which is here in about 15 minutes, the Red Badger folks, one of our great partners, are putting on their We Love Tech conference. And this topic is We Love Nats. And we at wasmCloud also love Nats. We run Nats under the hood for a lot of our networking and remote procedure calls. And so that's going to be here. I know it's 6:30 in London or in the UK, but then it'll be at 1:30 Eastern time. And the registration and attendance is free. So please feel free to come take a look at this. I'll drop the link in the chat. I think a lot of us on the wasmCloud side are going to migrate over there whenever this wraps up. So it'd be great to see other folks there as well. Does anybody else have any? Let's see, is Stuart on here? No, he's probably, running the conference. Anybody else have anything for the general WASM or wasmCloud community? Really anything freeform open now? Alrighty.
Brooks, I know it was released this week, but Taylor did a blog post about embedding static assets inside of WebAssembly Actor, which I think he's going to demo next week. He's on a call right now, so he couldn't make it. But that may be worth just pointing people out in case they want to check it out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Liam. That slipped my mind. Yeah, we have a new blog post on the Cosmonic site for running your UI on wasmCloud, and this is something that Taylor wrote up, and Taylor pioneered the engineering of this. But it's what it started with. Our pet clinic example, we were still running our React app essentially in a container to serve static assets, and not ideal. And we found that, and what Taylor found is that we can package these assets into WebAssembly modules and completely remove the container part of our pet clinic application. So I won't spoil the whole thing. It's a great quick read that Taylor wrote up. I dropped that link in the chat, so would highly recommend that.
Brooks, if you can, maybe you can also show the GitHub address or the GitHub page for TinyGo Actor Support.
Oh yeah, sure. Kevin, you want to talk through this a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Maybe just go into the example and show that one. Yeah. So the basic idea is we support we support actors written in TinyGo, and so you can compile your TinyGo modules to WebAssembly and then run them in the wasmCloud host. Right now, the message pack serialization and deserialization stuff is all being done by hand. But fairly soon we hope to have code generation support, so you'll be able to use your Smithy files to generate either Rust types or TinyGo types.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that a very common question that we get is bringing on additional language support. I know Jordan is on the call now, and he's I'd say a little bit of a Go fan. Definitely been looking for that for a little while. So this is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely give credit where credit's due. A lot of the code that's in here came from examples that Jordan built.
Can't find the emote, so I got to clap in person. So thank you, Jordan. All right, Kevin, Jordan said in the chat he gave up Go for PHP. Well, this is awesome, and looking forward to. I haven't actually gotten to try this out myself, but this is great. All right. Well, that's a lot of exciting stuff that I kind of glossed over a little bit, serving UI from wasmCloud and preliminary TinyGo support for wasmCloud actors, which is really exciting. Does anybody else have anything else interesting? Evan, I know that you were working on something about fly.io for the Nats networking plan under wasmCloud. How's that coming along?
It's actually gone really well. They posted they are a heavy consumer of Nats to gossip some information for networking and routing and ports available within their services. There's a really wonderful blog post they have out on how they use Nats. But they also posted some examples of how to deploy a Nats cluster within Fly. And so I kind of took that example and started tweaking on it a little bit and realized, holy crap, I have Nats that I can get to from like anywhere in the US with low latency. That is intriguing, even if it's just the Nats part of it. And so probably my next steps are going to be similar to, I think, what's been posted in architecture before by you guys, having a routing layer of HTTP servers and Fly within Fly's regions, which span the globe, would be pretty interesting because it would mean we could serve an actor through and close to wherever someone may be, which is an incredible boost to latency for some applications. And obviously is something that more of the proprietary groups already have. But yeah, it's like edge deployed WASM. Seems kind of interesting.
That's pretty cool. You'll have to let us know how that's going. And whenever you get like a little POC of it, let us know before the community call. We'll slide you in the demo section. That'd be great.
Yep. I would want to get something more concrete though.
Yeah. I did a little bit of experimenting with like Nats all over the place for the talk that I did today at DevOps Day in Atlanta, which is why I'm in random hotel room. And it's really cool looking how quick things can move along. I think I posted in the wasmCloud channel about that, like going from like airport Wi-Fi over to like my house in DC where I'm running the Google Coral, like out to a database in Texas and everything. And it is, around a quarter of a second to do all of that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm interested to see, Fly.io has their whole value prop around latency. I'd be interested in comparing that to, I'm using NGS, the Nats global service. I bet they're comparable, but I'm really interested to see how it differs.
Yeah, I mean, I slammed into it with Oracle free tier ARM 4 cores in Ashburn, and I posted Fly routes in Ashburn, DFW, and LAX, and really good latency. I got straight up gig speed between nodes on a trivial Nats bench. So feasibly a message gateway that would allow me to do that, but also, the inside outside transfer costs of cloud are a factor, but intriguing nonetheless.
Yeah, that's really neat. You connect it to Gitpod. You can do all the things.
Yep, dev it all without even letting it touch a local, right? Yep.
All right. Well, unless anybody else has something for the open floor, speak now or forever hold your peace. I can go ahead and end the recording, and we can get on to just hanging out before the Nats conference. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Discussion happens.
I know.
The best discussion happens at the end of every call. I'm sitting on the beach with pina colada in hand, and this is interesting to me. So, so where were we? We were talking about Go Actor Support and code generation, I think, in addition to some of the like what our experience was with Fly.io. I think that's awesome. Let's pick back up there.
Yeah. Okay. Beep, boop, beep, boop. I'm gonna end the community call. Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out. Oh, Evan, great question. TinyGo support for Smithy and the CodeGen. So yeah. Anyways, we wanted to pick up the conversation because we always end up with some cool stuff. And our I guess a TLDR of what I just said. Everybody's going to be bored because I'm going to say it again. All of the CodeGen that we've been doing for Rust actors and Rust capability providers, that's coming from Smithy interfaces, which is language agnostic. The tooling that we've been writing has been keeping in mind that we're going to be first class supporting things like TinyGo and other WebAssembly languages in the future. So now that we've gotten Rust to a certain amount of maturity, we're really looking at and experimenting with our interfaces to a certain amount of security, really interested in taking a leap for a next couple of languages to get that first class wasmCloud support. Because ever since we've started, you can technically write a wasmCloud actor in any language that can, read something from, that's capability providers, in any language that can compile to a freestanding WASM file. But the CodeGen really gives that removed boilerplate experience, abstracting away some of the things that are core to interacting with the wasmCloud runtime. Evan, did you have, I know you said you had some things that you're really interested in, like
yeah,
side.
Yeah, like so I've got a colleague that I'm going to be meeting in the next week who works on a language called Grain that compiles to WASM. Like, I'm curious what the CodeGen path would look like, because I kind of dived through some of the Smithy IDL and it looked like in the past you'd even CodeGen, I guess, a subset Python or something like Python to do an actor development in Python. And I thought, boy, there's some really great simplified languages out there that I don't have to onboard somebody to learning Rust that would be great CodeGen targets, right? Like just pure actor development, not providers, just actors, right?
Yeah, we definitely agree there. I think so. One of the reasons why TinyGo is there is because it's nice and easy for people to use, but also I'm a big fan of Grain, and the CodeGen for Grain would look similar to the way it will look for TinyGo, where 90% of the work is going to be in generating the data types. And I don't know offhand what the message pack data encoding round trip story looks like in Grain. That would probably, that's
a good first start though. Yeah.
Okay. That's probably the limiting factor, is being able to round trip data types in message pack. Once you can do that, Grain should be ready to roll.
Yeah, and it's got the raw buffer and bytes primitives that kind of get at that, but yeah, the serialization, deserialization, does it exist for message pack? Probably not the case. Probably have to roll that. Yeah. Okay, so I'll start there. I'll look at message pack serialization and see if it's possible.
One of the things that I have been waiting to be able to use, and we're not really there yet. Once WebAssembly has like a decent component model type set up, what we could do is, generate the message pack round trip code, dump it into a .wasm file, and then have your Grain code refer to the WASM file that contains the deserialization stuff, and merge the two together. And that way you wouldn't actually have to write the message pack stuff in Grain. You could treat the other WASM file like a library.
Oh, okay. All right.
But that's not possible today, but hopefully one day we'll have some stuff where we can kind of stitch together multiple different WASM components.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think back when we were looking at or like back in the 0.18 world with assembly script support, didn't we have to, like, assembly script didn't have great message pack support at the time, I believe. Like I think we
Yep. Phil Keedy wrote the message pack library for assembly scripts, and it's still basically the go-to library for message pack stuff on assembly scripts. And the same is actually true for our TinyGo stuff. We're using we're using Phil's message pack because the other message pack library that I found for TinyGo crashes all the time and has build problems. So yeah, like I said, there are two hurdles to overcome when trying to make something work as an actor for wasmCloud. The first is, can you produce a freestanding WebAssembly module? That's pretty easy for certain languages like Rust and C++ and things like that, and obviously Grain and assembly script. But then the next hurdle is, can you round trip message pack payloads?
That's a good starting point. I think I'll start there and see what I can find. Yeah.
Yeah, keep us updated. We're happy to kind of help. We're happy to help out in that department because yeah, Grain and assembly script, like the purpose built WebAssembly languages, are really interesting. Support, especially assembly script. It's not really TypeScript, but the TypeScript like syntax is so much more approachable for so many people who have done JavaScript or done TypeScript before. Getting people in the door is really a lot easier with that. All right, this is the part of the meeting where I pretend to end it, and then someone else comes out with an awesome question, and then we can keep it going. Okay, I'm gonna stop it, but nobody better come up with a good topic after we do this.